What's good, y'all? Welcome to the Banski Show, the podcast where we discuss DIY musician life. Today, we're going to discuss music marketing on social media, in person. My guest is Matt Bacon. We discuss how to network properly, Instagram social media tips, and stick to the end where I discuss a tip that I just recently deployed that worked out to be pretty successful and increase the engagement with my audience on Instagram. Please enjoy my conversation I have with Matt Bacon. Welcome to the Banski Show. Thank you for joining us, Matt.
Thank you for having me.
What's going down? How are you?
You know, it's Friday night, so things are okay. I feel like Friday night during quarantine. Like, I really like being able to do podcasts like this because it's okay, Fridays have a whole different meaning now, but getting to do something kind of fun like this where it's oh, okay, at least I get to talk to someone and not, watch TV and feel sad again.
No, I totally really can't even go to the clubs anymore. No bars, just grab a beer real quick. It's kind of
right. It's Friday night and it sucks.
Yeah, I usually go to live shows and intertwine that with my drinking habit. And no live shows, I guess. But it is what it is. We'll get through it. But I want to let you know I found you. I found you on Instagram, and I liked your work. I dig your style. I like how it's
Thank you.
A short clips kind of pointing out music marketing strategies that are kind of hidden in plain sight. And I just thought I'd reach out. Thank you for being receptive and taking the time to sit down with us. And on the show, we like to just talk about every aspect of DIY musician life. And so I wanted to bring you on because I know you got a bunch of experience and maybe you can bounce around some ideas just about music marketing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and so your name is Matt Bacon or Bacon Bit?
For you it is. My name is Matt Bacon.
Okay.
For the world at large.
Gotcha. Okay. So
I kind of became Matt Bacon when I was 14 because I was just getting in touch with black metal dudes on the internet, and I was okay, this guy maybe murdered someone, so I probably shouldn't give him my last name. And now 11 years later, my mom is a college professor now, and she doesn't need she doesn't need me showing up when people Google her,
So your father's a murderer and your mother's a college professor?
No, my dad's a fucking works as a normal businessman. But
gotcha.
Both of them have real jobs and don't need me showing up when someone Googles their name.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. Sorry, a little slow there.
But I'm saying I do know some very bad people from black metal.
Some practicing Satanists.
Yeah, I mean, black metal is kind of nutty, but
what kind of music did you listen to? What kind of music were your parents listening to when you were growing up?
So this is kind of funny. This is something I always talk about. Is up until I was 11 years old, I didn't think I liked music because I was only really exposed to pop music. And as a really small kid, I knew I liked rock music, but my parents weren't really listening to a lot of rock music. But I would always beg for it in the car, and I would call it the loud music. And my mom would put on the Rolling Stones and be okay, this is the Rolling Stones. Now say Rolling Stones. But they weren't and they still aren't music people, And literally, I got a text. I was making fun of my dad about this the other day. He texted me. He was I was listening to that Jimi Hendrix guy. He was really good. I was
a little late. And it's probably in his time, at least way closer to his generation, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, whatever, But so, but then what happened was I started going to this half cyber, half charter school. So I was at home a lot all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what do people do when they work? And then I was like, turns out I think they listen to music. And so I was like, okay, what's a band? The Beatles. And then like very quickly it went from like being into the Beatles to like, okay, who's this Led Zeppelin band? To like, okay, who's this Black Sabbath band? To like,
Yeah.
This is Slayer.
Yeah.
You know.
Same here.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's step by step.
Yeah, you get bounced. Who introduced you to the first band that led to the other domino effect, one after another?
Honestly, so like the Beatles I knew by like cultural osmosis, but then the rest kind of came from like Wikipedia deep dives where it was like, okay, like who did they influence?
Yeah. I was super lucky. Yeah, to be introduced to both rock and rap, and so like
That's awesome.
I grew up listening to Metallica, Megadeth. I've seen Megadeth several times in concert, and yeah, it's badass.
My homegirl Lara, you'd appreciate this. My homegirl, I don't like Megadeth. I've seen Megadeth like 7 times with her.
Really?
She has seen Megadeth 70 times.
Dude, why don't you like Megadeth?
I mean, I like Megadeth. I don't like them live. I think live.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't think Dave has like very good projection live. And I've seen Megadeth in a 200-person club.
Oh.
They played my neighborhood bar. It was insane.
Dude, that'd be sick.
I actually really regret not having an exposure to rap early on. I've only really gotten into rap in the last couple of years because when I was a kid, growing up in like a conservative Christian white suburb, like all the mainstream kids listened to rap, and it felt like very culture vulture to me, and very like, this doesn't seem like, like we're from the same like neighborhood and have like trees in our front yards. You're dropping hard R's. Like I'm gonna kind of steer clear from that.
No,
you know what I mean? And it wasn't until I like lived in a punk house on a corner where I could buy blow through the window that like suddenly Pusha T made sense to me. And I was like, oh, okay. But like before, like living in a nice suburb as a kid, it was like, this doesn't feel.
That's interesting. You said punk.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. Like, it doesn't. It's not really. What's the word? Cohesive, but also doesn't align. Like it doesn't look. It looks like they're putting on the front. It doesn't look real.
And like, again, especially when it's like, when you go to a very white school and a very, in like a middle upper class community, like, so it just seems gross.
The punk rock though does kind of blend into the hip hop world. Like you got Sublime started really blending it in there. And I know you do focus. Like, so how did you get into music marketing? I'm actually pretty interested in that. Like, how did you, so you hit it pretty hard, and that seems like your main. I know you have, you're the owner of your company Dropout Media. I was just checking out, and let's talk about that as well. But how did you get started with music marketing?
So I started a blog so when I was 14, I didn't go on the school trip because I was sick. And my parents were like, well, you have to do something. And so me and my buddy, Dan, who's still one of my best friends and I've known since preschool, decided to start a blog together, like writing about metal bands. Because he was like really into the like website building and the technical stuff. And he still is. And that's still kind of what he does. And I wasn't really smart enough for that. But I like wanted to write about metal bands because I had just moved to Paris. And I was like trying to meet other people who were about like black metal, and I had like no clue, and no one in my school was interested in anything I was interested in. And also like I was a shithead, but like, like I was actively antagonistic, but like regardless, so you do that, and then, so it starts there, and so I end up getting a job with this PR company. And I end up dropping out of college for this job, and like to tour and stuff. And then I actually moved to Brooklyn. I'm 19 years old. And I think 2 months after moving to Brooklyn, I lose the PR job because the guy who owned the company got a divorce.
Wow.
And so he was like, and me and that guy are still friends.
So that was the
You
dude
know?
that hired you, and then
Yeah.
the new management
And
came
I'd been
in.
working for him already for like a year, and then this divorce happened, and it was like, but like he and I are still friends, and we still like, but he had to like get his house in order.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And he couldn't pay some kid, a couple grand a month or whatever to like whatever. But what happened was a bunch of the bands I was working with were like,
Mm-hmm.
you actually gave us a bunch of really good advice. Could you like keep doing that?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah. Because I'm like 19 years old and I need to figure out how I'm going to pay rent.
Sure. Yeah. And were they
And so
paying you? Were they paying you at that point for? I mean,
yeah,
for. I mean, were they paying you for the music, the stuff that you're doing now, like giving advice and
yeah.
to pretty much blow up and build your brand? And
yeah, basically. Yeah.
Awesome.
And so like literally went 1 month, I lost the job. The next month I was already hustling and had converted my first couple clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't like doing great, but it was something. And then I started managing a couple bigger bands and touring a lot, and that, and then I ended up start working with a label called Ripple Music, who I think are my longest tenured client. Yeah, they're my longest tenured client. I've been working with them for like 5 years now, which is crazy. And then that slowly spiraled. And then in 2018, on the inspiration of my friend Curtis Stewart, right after I stopped making bad choices involving drugs and alcohol, I started doing Bacon's Bits, inspired by my friend Curtis Stewart. And that starts to turn into a bunch of other stuff. Right? Because then it's like, oh, it's the daily Matt Bacon show where Matt talks about how some marketing stuff and he's really smart. And that turns into all these other opportunities that people kind of know me for today. And it's like, oh, okay, like, slow growth with lots of steps backs and lots of like come to Jesus moments and lots of like, okay, like here's a way I was fucking up and now I need to be better, and I literally had like a big, and learning to accept that. I had a big mental reset this week that I'm still in the middle of.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I really believe in like that Buddhist saying, proverb, you can't fall off a mountain. And it's like,
do you roll it down to the bottom?
No, but the idea is more like you're building, right? And like when you're at the top of the mountain, you're not going to fall off. Like you've done all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's hard to keep going, but you're not going to suddenly go back to zero.
Right. You're not starting from the beginning. You're starting from experience.
Yeah, it's like, okay, fuck, I fucked up and I have to do some mental resets. I have to explore some new things. I have to become a better person. But I've already built to here. Mm-hmm. So now I can get the ball over the next hill.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, I think, is you can't fall off a mountain. But you have to build sustainably and fairly and supporting your community, which I think is the number one thing people don't understand is that mm-hmm. I can, I can have like this disgustingly entitled lifestyle that I lead because I give a lot. Mm-hmm. And I can survive fuck ups and I can survive mistakes. Not because I try to fuck up or make mistakes, but I'm just an idiot, but I just always want to give. I was doing a podcast yesterday where I was talking about, I think the ideal, the dream is to become sort of the, it's like that being the change you want to see in the world, and it's like, okay, you want to see more, women being more active in your community, then you have to open up those opportunities. No one else is going to like, you can't just say, oh man, it would be cool if women were, and like, you can't be like, oh, well, like I, as a white guy, shouldn't be the one to do that. Like, yes, you need to be thoughtful and you can't be like condescending, but like, there are things you can do that take your position and elevate people who deserve to be elevated.
That's something that I'm learning recently. Now that I'm getting older, like I used to be like, I can't do much. I'm just gonna just make sure my life is taken care of. But recently, I've been realizing like actually what I've been doing has great impact, and it's noticed, and so therefore it helps people. There's people that are watching what you're doing that you don't even realize that are watching and learning from you and growing from things that you've said, done, dropped, released, whatever, music, songs that you've made. Going back to your bacon bits. So I dig that name because obviously the
Yeah.
play on the words for bacon bits, little bits of information that you're dropping. You got the cigar going with the look, uh, and it's like consistent every single video. Yeah, you got
Cigars everywhere, bro.
it's the branding. It's on point.
Yeah.
Um,
I like how angry people get about the cigar. It makes me laugh.
people give you shit about the cigar.
Yeah, like not just because it's not lit, which is whatever,
Okay.
but also like people will just be like, "Oh, you look like such a douchebag," and I'm like, "That's kind of the joke."
Uh,
Right? Like it's kind of like the joke is like, "Oh, I'm the record label guy who's fucking like chomping on his."
Dude, I didn't even pick that up. You should double down and get like another like more props that are.
I used to wear a lot of rings.
Oh, that's a good one. Rings and a top hat.
Yeah, but see, like that with that, it was a balance.
Yeah,
Because
you
like
don't
when
want
I
to
wore
overdo it.
when I did all the rings, when I like really leaned into it,
Mm-hmm.
that people like weren't about. And so I
Mm-hmm.
dialed it back and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna be the cigar guy.
Yeah.
And I did away with the cigar for a minute, but then I was in Australia for a speaking engagement and I was helping this dude load in. And because like that's like what you have to do. Like I think that like I just want to break that down for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I got flown to Australia to talk. And I was still loading people in because that's what you need to be. Is like you need to be,
Of service.
you know, yeah, and I think, like I think yes, I talk a lot of shit and like I'm kind of arrogant, but like also I think my actions speak to humility, and I think that's a lot more important. But like
Yep.
I was helping this dude load in and he did a double take and he was like, "You're the cigar guy." And I was like, "Well, I guess the cigars are back in."
Yeah.
Like
They kind of are like you got Bill Burr smoking them all the time. He and then like he's like the happiest is like a little kid when he's smoking them. He's like it's hilarious, and you have Bert Kreischer obviously smoking them with them. I just feel like yeah they are coming back, and then you're part of that movement.
well, I just think I think that cigars are like I think it's good like when you're I think it's good like when you're like me and you very, very rarely drink.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to like have something on the weekend to like let off a little bit of steam and to like feel a little bit better about yourself.
Yeah,
A cigar is like a good alternative.
I almost rolled a blunt just to go with you. I was like this close, dude.
It's awesome.
I kind of regret it. But back to what you said about going down. Like I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember doing the same thing, and then like I was helping. I was at a show because I wanted to watch the performer. It was actually a Doobie show um, down here in Forestville. Doobie, Bay Area rapper, legendary.
Yeah.
Got to meet him. I'm super stoked. I went out there, forced myself to go out there by myself late at night. I could have just stayed in comfy and under my bed, but I went out there to network and meet, and I got to hang out with Doobie and smoke a blunt.
It's awesome.
And yeah, chopped it up with the rest of the performers and then the DJ. And I was right there talking, and he was lifting up his speakers, and I was like, "Oh, let me get that for you," just helping him load it up. And I did end up linking up with him, and he did end up, inviting me to one of his shows in the end. Like fast forward, so yes, absolutely, those
That's the thing,
moments.
right? Is
Mm-hmm.
it's just like sometimes like you do it and you don't, like I've literally, so one of the biggest signings of my life was this band Coven. And so this is a band from the 60s featuring the lady who invented this.
Mm-hmm. With
Okay.
wait, which one? The Rock On or the Hail Satan? Is it one and the same? Okay.
Yes. Because she's like an actual goddamn witch who like grew up in like a weird satanic thing. Like, and I love her.
Got
She's
it.
like one of my
Got
really
it.
good friends. But like satanic rock star from the 60s, right?
Got it.
And before I really knew her, I was friends with her booking agent. And the booking agent was, at one point, we're backstage at a festival watching them. And the booking agent was like, bro, like, I need someone to get her back to the hotel room. And the band aren't going to do it for whatever reason. I think they were loading out and it was a whole fucking situation. Yeah. And so it's like, okay. Like, and so I take her through the crowd and like fucking like walking like old metal dudes through a crowd is easy because you're just like shoving away like fucking 45-year-old fat guys. Walking like feminist goth icon through a crowd is really hard because it's a bunch of like hot 25-year-old girls and you can't like just like
you're like,
I have no problem like shoving some dude in his face because he can't talk to this person right now, but like you can't really do that to like
get those titties out of my face.
a girl who's a lot smaller than you. Like that's not cool, and I remember like trying to handle that, but like suddenly like that was the beginning of a relationship that leads to us doing like a box set and like multiple box sets, like fucking all of these things.
That was the first time you met her?
I'd met her one time previously, but she didn't remember. But I'd actually also taken her to her dressing room that time too.
So you planted seeds prior.
Yeah, but like that's what it is, right? Is like
it
sucks to take like a famous person from like point A to point B is like a pain in the ass, especially like if your friends are there and they're trying to like connect with you, and like they want to be introduced, like, and you just have to be like, nah, like that sucks. But like, it like you said, it's planting the seeds. It's like, and because you don't know when things are going to come back.
And it reminds me of another one of your posts, one of your Bacon Bits posts, is not only you plant the seed, you don't do it just willy-nilly just to do it so you can check it off your list. You do it meaningfully. You mean it. I think one of the posts that your post was about networking and just sending a message, like a comment, like, hey, you said don't send, hey, your stuff is cool. Say something that's of value, like, hey, I like that one song, track 3, blah, blah, when you talked about this, and it really meant this to me, and it's actually a meaningful commentary.
Yeah, that it shows you actually paid attention.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's
this is like
huge.
This is like my number one hack for like meeting famous people. Like the amount of famous people who I found out I was going to meet them 30 seconds before, and I did a Google search and I came up with like one weird fact, and I was like, hey, okay, so and like I find out like, oh, okay, you're into, I don't know, oh, you're into like 70s prog. And I'm like, oh, fuck, okay, this guy's into 70s prog. Okay, what do I know about 70s prog? What can I pull out of my back pocket? Okay, Jackula. Let's talk about Italian. Like, let me ask this guy about Jackula, and like, because he'll like really appreciate like a deep Italian 70s prog question.
Yeah. Right.
And then you get like a great conversation out of that. This is also why it's important to know a lot about music in general, is because like it's really important to, and also to read a lot, I think, is because it's really important to understand. And I used to do interviews for a very long time. I literally in high school, I kind of lived almost famous, like getting on tour buses, like literally knew a group of girls who I'm still friends with who called themselves the real life Band-Aids. Like this was what I did. And like, that's what you learn. It's like, if you know a lot about music, especially when you're talking to musicians, if you can like pick up on like, oh, that guy made like a Clips joke, and you can turn around and like make a Clips joke back at that guy.
Yeah.
Or a Pusha T joke, or like some weird Malice solo thing. Like, I don't know if you're into Clips or Pusha T. I'm really obsessed with Pusha T. But
I fucks with Pusha T. No, okay, I'm not like a super fan, but I listen to his music.
But you know what I'm saying, right? And it's like, if you can just like like people don't understand that. I think we have more time because my follow up call never got back to me, so that's cool. I'm
Yeah,
having a good
yeah.
time.
Let me know when I know we're cutting it close. Just let me know. Give me
No. We got time because the guy I was
yeah,
supposed to talk to never hit me
for
back.
sure, for sure.
So,
Um,
but like what I was saying was like, like you need like that's how people connect. My boy Scotty Tank Crimes put it really succinctly at one point. He was like, he's also a tour manager for a band called Municipal Waste, who are a pretty big
mhm,
thrash metal band.
mhm.
And at one point he said, I know we're going to become friends with another band when one of my guys starts talking to one of the guys in the band we're sharing a dressing room with about something other than music
Yeah,
or something other than the day. Like
yeah.
two metal bands are going to have a much deeper relationship over funk,
Hmm.
than they are like
It,
that's
re-
what it
it,
is, right?
it
It's
reminds
like
me of
connecting over.
yeah, no, it's a commonality that you can't go wrong with. So if you're well versed in it, then you're setting yourself up for success. It reminds me of the corporate world where if you know about sports, you can spark up a conversation with like the boss, the hiring manager, right? And if you can do that and it's a good conversation, you're already got way ahead of other candidates because
That's
you
like why I study soccer.
yeah,
Like
right?
I watched Bundesliga for like a year so I could impress two Germans. Like because
Yeah,
I knew it would be high
super cool.
leverage, I knew it would work in my favor, but I was like,
Mhm.
okay, like if I
Yeah,
can if I can fucking talk about Kingsley Coman, like they're gonna be like, this is the guy.
yeah, absolutely. You got to know the lingo and the verbiage. Got to talk the talk. No,
Well,
absolutely.
and like you have to understand, like, you get to go to like a nice dinner with someone cool. And,
So how did you
you know, gotta talk
fall
about something other than work.
just to get into like a more strategic
Yeah, yeah.
things people can take away when so the you help the madam the lady uh get to her hotel.
Yeah.
How did you stay connected with her? Did you just say, hey, uh I'll hit you on like Facebook or something like that, or did you?
Um Basically what happened was I stayed connected with the agent, and then I had all the pieces together to make a really good offer to make a gorgeous box set. And then I was going to be in the city she lives in anyway,
Mhm.
for a festival, and so I just was like, hey, let's get together. And what did I do? I got a bunch of really nice box sets, like several $100s worth of shit.
What are these
Just
box sets?
I wish I had one on hand. They're like, we've got like an art book in there and the LPs and maybe a flag. In the Coven one, I printed. Got her to my apartment. I flew her to New York, and then I got a nurse to draw her blood, and then I put the blood in the ink that we use for the certificates of authenticity. And it's only 1,000, and that was really insane and like probably not legal. And like it did great.
Yeah. So you pulled
But
together some like nice little prize, like little
yeah,
surprise and gifts that you
well,
gave her,
I was
and
like, well, because I gave her like a nice box set, right? And I was like, look, like we can present your work in this way. And
mhm,
within like 30 seconds, she was like, okay, yeah, I'm in. Like, what do I do?
yeah,
And it's like,
gotcha.
well, you signed this piece of paper, and
Was that the contract or
yeah,
some kind of agreement? Okay.
yeah. And I think she signed it in her blood too, which was tight.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Like, I don't know, it's fucking so sick. But like that's what you got to do, right? Is you just got to be like, for signing bands, when you what
Mhm,
a sought after band,
yeah.
you have to be like, I am going to bring you the most value. I am the fucking best, and here is why.
Hmm. Hmm.
Same with anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Do you have you ever worked with any rappers like as far as even just giving advice to a rapper?
Yeah, I'm working right now with this kid, Pat CB here. He's growing. I'm really stoked on him. He's learning a lot. Um, yeah, and I work with a guy, Skinny Steve, who does beats. Yeah, I have a couple people. Why? What's up? What do you want to talk about? Let's chop it up.
Oh no, I was just curious, just because I know you do a lot of with bands, so I'm wondering, what kind of advice you would give a rapper this day and age, with
I-
I mean, or is it just all the same no matter who you are as a
Some of
musician?
it's the same, but I think that rappers are in a more advantageous position because I think that in bands, there's like most bands are just like solo projects. Like there's one guy, maybe two guys who like actually matter,
Do all the work.
you know. But the problem is that like if that one or two guys are like the only people who show up on social because they're the only people who create fucking content,
Hmm.
it starts to look bad and other band members get mad, but then, and it's like a whole fucking thing. Whereas like rappers, like you are the name of your project.
Hmm.
Like that is your name. So like the brand and the band are, or the brand and the music are like one and the same in a way that it
Right.
can't really be with bands most of the time.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
it's like, okay, cool. So you can just be that. And that's also why I think people like Ghostmane, like he was in a hardcore band that played my buddy Max's garage
Hmm.
um when we were teenagers. And then like now he's Ghostmane, and it's like it sort of makes sense to me because it's like if he like wanted to be big, like you could either drag four fucking idiots behind him and split the money five ways,
Hmm.
or he could do it himself.
Yeah. But that's
That
the thing.
doesn't seem
You
like
can't, even with the DIY, you're not doing it yourself. You have to, at least you're not going to blow up to become Chance the Rapper by yourself. You still need a team.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like
Correct,
what I'm saying is like,
correct me if I'm wrong
but
too. I'm actually just spouting out my opinions.
no, yeah, no, like you need a
I have
team, but
no
like
authority
you
other than
can
my.
be more, you can be the director more of your team. You can be the, I think it's easier when it's one guy and it's much, it's easier to communicate a single message, and it's not like, okay,
Yeah.
we have
Right.
the band social media and then each member needs to have their social media,
Mhm.
but like, that gets tricky and that, like the, so
Yeah.
you kind of need to like make it all one thing and make it very clear. Like this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm
Right.
driving for. And you can
Yeah.
tell your story and just push, 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 push,
Mhm. I think it might have even been that conversation you had recently. I checked out with you and another dude on Instagram just recently. You had a podcast show that you posted. Um,
The one with Scotty Tank Crimes?
Maybe,
This direction?
but I think so. But it was about or one thing I remember, just knowing what you stand for. Like, and what
Yeah.
you just said, having one direction. Like, I get it. What you're saying, it's a lot easier to make decisions as a business if you're just only one person making the decision versus like several bands, and then the promotion is just no one wants to do all the work for a whole group. That just, it always breeds contempt, and but you reminded me about just having like a purpose of like what your brand stands for. It just, and when you said like that, I think of like, of course, a rapper's name is literally becomes the brand, and but then even further than that, what does it represent? Like, does it represent? You said it. Yeah, you did say it. You said even some rappers, their thing is fucking depression. That's what you
Yeah.
said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, it was you. So yeah, when you said that, dude, something clicked in my mind, and I was like, "What's my thing?" I don't even really know.
Yeah. Well, it's
Um,
always like, I think it's always important to understand like there's so much music, and people spend so little time with an individual artist, at least at first, that you need to be, like how did Pusha T get my attention? Like he was one of my gateway rap artists. The My Name Is My Name record was like the first rap album that I was really like, this is for me.
yeah, you were like,
You
"Wow,
know?
I guess I do like rap."
Yeah.
Like that.
And but like but like how did I get into him? I got into him in like via a Complex interview where he talked about being the CEO of Good Music.
Mhm.
And so he's like, okay, so he's Pusha T, but what is Pusha T? Pusha T is the hustler rapper who sells cocaine, who's the president, who's the CEO of Good Music, right? Like, so Pusha T is like the rapper entrepreneur god, right? Cool. You know what I mean? And so it's like, so suddenly like you have a brand association with him. And what are a lot of his songs about? Entrepreneurship and selling cocaine, and how selling cocaine taught him to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like that's what it is, right? Is it's like cool, you know, like you have to understand this is how we convert. You know, same thing with like even like Public Enemy, right? Like with the politics, right? Like yes, they're a rap group, but they're political. You know what I mean? Or if you like any rapper who really gets somewhere, there's some sort of brand association that ties into them.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
Like if you name, and sometimes it's just, I don't know, like sometimes even though someone like Freddie Hubbard, like that's a guy who I just think is like really poetic, you know, and sometimes that can be your, like, that's harder to do. Yeah. Like he's like also like the best at that. So it's the thing, you know, say, or like MF Doom or something where like there's those flows that are just like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
But
RP.
But like, but you know what I'm saying, right? Where so
no,
like
absolutely.
Sometimes the music can be like your unique selling point, but other times you're fucking Wu-Tang, who are objectively one of the best rap groups ever, and yet they still have this strong kung fu association that is part of what makes it so endearing. You know, or like that Guzza record, Liquid Swords, which is probably my favorite rap record ever. You know, like I 100% would not have gotten into that record as much if it weren't for like the, you know, my father was the greatest samurai, and like the way he just goes like that speech, and just
right
like, but there's those associations, right? And you have to understand, like, because most of the time people aren't gonna just you know,
it's like telling the story.
Yeah,
it's like telling the story about who you are as a person. Yeah. That's one thing I'm starting to realize
and
lately.
That's like why the comic book thing worked so well for the Wu family at large.
Yeah.
Is that it's like, because comic books are storytelling, and it's very easy to put in these story elements, you know, that people can connect with. And obviously they do it brilliantly. Like, I'm not trying to take away from the achievement that is the Wu-Tang Clan, but like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, they can put in these elements and suddenly you feel like you're in a narrative. You listen to Liquid Swords, you know, and you hear, I see you are using an old style, you know, and it's like, and suddenly you like feel like you're in that thing. Mm-hmm. I realize that like this entire podcast is just going to turn into like me fucking making Guzza jokes. Like, yeah, I know every lyric on that album. You know,
that's dope. That's dope, like, dude. I would have never guessed that. I would have never guessed that about you. Is that something that is known, or people are going to discover that in this episode?
I think that people who know me know. I think that like I definitely, something I really enjoy is like, there's a lot of like Euro metal dudes who take themselves way too seriously and who will say stuff like, I listen to no music that is inspired by punk or hip hop. I'm not even sure if hip hop is real music, but I'm definitely not a racist. And, you know, and so I'll just like make these like, just to like amuse myself at like 2 a.m. in Germany. I'll make a Pusha T joke, and like one other person at the table will be like, you know, or like or just something really obvious where you're just like,
yeah.
You know, I don't even know what that means. I just say it because it's provocative.
No, that's dope. That's dope. And also, like, when you, it's crazy that you got into his rap music when you read his interview, and it's like totally different mediums. That goes to show to just be everywhere too and try to expose yourself. Obviously, he's a CEO of Good Music, owned by Kanye West, and so that's a lot of exposure on its own. But the fact that he did an interview, and I mean, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the reason why I built this platform. I want to start a podcast so I can talk about other things outside of music, like that I can't just put in a
Yeah.
rhyme, you know. But I also want to use it as a platform to build my brand.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? It's like creating content tells your story.
Mm.
And that's how humans remember things. You know, like that's how you get points across. You know, and I've actually received criticism in the past for telling stories rather sometimes than citing numbers, especially in my Bacon's bits. But the reason I do that a lot of the time, outside of the fact that I kind of film the Bacon's bits in the moment and I don't want to go fucking pull up
Yeah.
numbers, is that you're going to remember the story a lot more than you're going to remember me saying, okay, so your conversions are now hitting at 18 cents a pop. And so what you want to do once they're hitting at 18 cents a pop is you're going to put in this new thing, you know, like, whereas if I'm like, okay, so once your conversions get down reasonably, now let's take those people and bring them a new thing. And just like, you know, you just make it like you have to tell. And then when you can tell your story and reference your place in the cultural lexicon and show your authenticity, that's when you start to get somewhere. And that's the other thing I think people don't understand is that's why shout outs matter. Yeah. That's why posting old photos matter, you know, because you need to explain to people this is who I am, you know, or even just like making a tweet about something crazy. Like I tweeted the other day when it did pretty good about Phil Anselmo from Pantera teaching me to smoke weed out of an apple when I was like 19.
Oh yeah, I'm already hooked.
Like, yeah, but like, but that just like,
I'm already curious, like,
because like I was boys with John Jarvis, who was in Pig Destroyer and is an agoraphobic nosebleed, and then he was like, "Hey Matt, we need weed in France," and I was going to be there, so I hooked it up through someone. I can't even remember how I bought the weed, like, you know, but like,
hopefully it was chronic.
You do these things, and then you have the story, and then you have to tell that story, and it's like, this is part of my legacy, you know, and so now, okay, cool, so now here we are, and you grow, but you have to tell stories because no one's telling the story for you. Mm-hmm. You know, we talked about it. You'll hear this probably before this comes out. I don't know when this is coming out, but I have a podcast coming out on Monday where my boy Scotty Tank Crimes, we talk about how we got a death metal record to go top 40 last year with Necrot. Mm-hmm. And part of what we did with the social strategy was this idea of interviewing yourself, where we just like had the band make posts about their favorite influences. Cause like nobody's gonna go fucking, cause like I have 11,000 Instagram followers. Okay. I can make a post and get 200 likes and who knows how many impressions. Or I can go get interviewed by someone and probably not get that many views. And there's value to doing interviews, and I think it's cool, and I think we can, you know, communicate a lot more. But like, why would I not do both? Because like, let's see. So that Phil Anselmo story, it got like 40 likes on Twitter, and let me tell you how it did on Instagram right now.
That's such a great tip to just interview yourself.
It's at 214 Instagram likes, right? So that's like 250 people who engaged with me telling this Phil Anselmo story. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know what your viewership is on this podcast, but compared to most podcasts, that's a better get. More than all my podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, this podcast is brand new, so I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
But that's
and
that's
what I'm saying.
And the story's going to stick with whoever tuned in to capture that. And you can repost it later on and to new audience, new people that didn't see it the first time. It's awesome.
Yeah, dude. Like this is what it's got to be, right? Is it just got to be like, how do we interaction push further? Yeah. How do we tell more stories? How do we get more people going?
Yeah. What was that trick? I mean, if you don't mind sharing again.
Yeah, whatever.
You mentioned a trick about how you bumped up your followers to like that next level to 10,000. And
okay, that's a fun story. I was really proud of this actually because I've never seen anyone do it before.
Thank you.
So I was grinding to get to 10,000, and I was stuck. This is in October, and I was stuck in the 9880s. Like I'd been kind of hovering in like the 7,000 to 8,000 range for like a long time. And I like almost a year. And I kind of was at one point I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm done earning 100 followers a month. I'm going to get to 10,000. So I start really grinding the comments. Every single time I went to the bathroom, I had to drop 10 comments. Like, just fucking going, right? And, and I got stuck at 9880. And I was just there, and I couldn't get over the hump, and I was so fucking aggravated.
Yeah.
And I had this idea earlier for what I was going to do, but I wanted to get closer, but then it just wouldn't go. So I was like, fuck it. So what I did was I said, because I have more followers than most of the people who follow me, because I'm doing like advice for bands, right? And so what I did was and also 9,880 is more than most people on Instagram in general. So what I did was I said, look, if you make a story about me, I will make a story about you.
Mm-hmm.
So my value add was actually bigger than the value add of pretty much anyone shouting me out. There was a few bigger people who helped me, obviously, and I'm very grateful to them. Don't get me wrong. But
so you asked them to make a story. If they make a story about you, you'll make a story about them?
Even if you have one follower and you made a story about me.
Any kind of story?
Just a story saying how cool I was and to follow me.
Did you give those instructions? Or did you?
Oh, no, I basically said, like, make a story telling people to follow me, and I'll, like, make a story shouting me out, and I'll make a story shouting you out.
Gotcha.
And so I just went in, and I was just like, okay, let's just see what happens. Because I can't be stuck at 9880 for the rest of my fucking life. Which was how it started.
Yeah, you took matters into your own hands.
Yeah, and so I got up, and I was like, okay, let's do it. And I got like 150 fucking people to do it. Damn. And I just exploded. And it was like insane. Like it took me like probably like 6 hours the day that like I launched it. Mm-hmm. And it was just like going and going and growing and growing. But again, it was so fun because I was like shouting out people who had like 30 followers and then they turn around and get like 25 out of it. Because there were people who were following along and were like, okay, I'm just going to follow everyone he shouts out. And then there was even like, I have this friend who does like, I remember having this very awkward interaction with this friend of mine who does like tasteful nudes on a Patreon. And I was like, how do I present this in a way that isn't creepy? I'm willing to shout you out. I think what you do is cool, but I don't want to be like,
I support you. You're my friend.
Go look at this girl naked. You know what I mean? And she and I ended up having like a really like productive, healthy conversation. That was like, okay, like here's a way you can say it that isn't like weird. Well, because like I don't fucking know. And so, but like,
just like you can say that if you work in cannabis, I work in agriculture.
Yeah, yeah.
There's always a spin.
So you find ways to, but like, so I did that, and that was amazing because it was like getting to elevate everyone else while getting myself over this hump was like the craziest thing ever. Mm-hmm. And to have like hundreds of people, many of whom I didn't know from all over the world, just being like, Matt Bacon has given me a bunch of good advice. And then it was really fun to like go into each of those people's pages and be like, and like listen to their band for a second and be like, oh, this is like really cool stoner rock. And just like, and the fact that like people in the community wanted to go follow all those people just to like,
to clarify, they did a story about you and then you followed them, or you did another story about them?
No, they made a story about me and I literally went and made a story about them.
Okay. So it wasn't like a follow for follow or a story for follow or anything. It was a story for story.
Yeah. It's like, you're going to get attention from my much bigger account by shouting me out on your small account.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think every single musician could use that tip. And just to add to that, something I learned recently that I want to start implementing for my next release is as soon as just recently I dropped a music video, and I should have done this when I dropped the Lit music video. Everybody go check it out. My next release though, I'm going to go live and tell my brother to go live. He's a producer too, but go live when you make a big post. Make sure you post before you go live. Post first, go live, say, hey, everybody, I just posted this new music video, just dropped. I'm super stoked. Everybody go check it out, blah, 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 blah. Chop it up, tell them about it. Obviously, you're going to be juiced. They're going to see that. They're going to be excited for you. And then also, toward the end of the live, you wait for the stragglers, or not the stragglers. You wait for the last few people that are in the room, and you ask them. You go to the message and you say, "Hey, you mind if you go to my last post, like, comment, and leave a comment, whatever. Say that, hey, I was just in Banski's live, and blah blah blah, and then I'll follow you, or I'll comment back, or I'll like, or you do something in return." I think it was a follow. Yeah. But something like that, like you said, another story. Actually, a good thing to offer would be I'll shout you out in a story.
Yeah, like, you gotta, before we wrap up, like, nobody gives a shit about you. They only care about themselves. So make caring about you caring about them.
Right,
you know? People follow me because I'm a valuable follow.
Right. And you're, in the end of the day, it comes back to giving.
Right? Like, you're going to follow me not because you think my life is interesting or whatever. You're going to follow me because I'm going to teach you something. And you want to make sure you see that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Matt, thank you so much for your time. I think that's a great spot to end and wrap up. Is there anything that that you want to let our audience know? Maybe shout out, where can they find you? Where do you want to direct anyone that's interested in getting in touch with you?
Yeah, follow me everywhere on social, bacons.bits. And check out, if you're into metallic hardcore, check out this band Capra, who I signed to Blacklight Media, a Metal Blade subsidiary that I do with Chris Santos from Chopped.
Cool.
And shout out Chris. We're pushing that record really hard right now. That's not all my attention, but it's a lot of my attention. It's a big focus. I need that record to do well so that I can not be poor. So
again, what do they have to look up to listen to that record?
Capra. Capra.
Awesome.
Metallic hardcore. Check it out. It's killer. And yeah, we'll catch you later.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you for tuning in to the Banski Show. Hope you've been enjoying our podcast. Make sure to subscribe any platform that you listen to podcasts, and like, comment, subscribe. Yada. Whoa. This is the Banski Show.